I never thought I'd be doing this. I'm sitting at the moment on the back of Pip Hare's IMOCA 60 Medallia, and we're about to head off and try and find some wind and catch some waves. To be honest, I'm not sure whether I am so excited or so terrified, but I guess we'll wait to see what happens.
Main living area on Medallia, but actually it's kind of where pretty much everything happens. So we've got 5 watertight bulkheads. This is one of them here, and I've got hatches that go in those 2 openings there. But everything forward of here is pretty much empty, other than we've got foil cases on the other side of this bulkhead, but nothing else. It's just another 3 watertight compartments completely empty. So everything's in here. This is where I live, I sleep, I navigate, but also all of my kind of main controls for the boat are in here. So just here, this is the Cathedral. So all the lines come down the mast and through the deck here, through the deck step, and then they go out through these 2 tunnels, one on each side, so that I can control everything from the cockpit. And inside here is the keel head. So this bit is open to the water. I mean, this is one of the weird things about canting keels, is that, you know, there is, because the head of the keel needs to be attached to the hydraulic ram, which is inside the boat, effectively you just have a hole where you can actually see the water, you can see the sea through it. And here is where the our water inlet for the engine cooling, for the water maker, and also I've got a hose here that will fill up my water ballast as well. And that all comes through the Cathedral, through the head of the keel, and everything that needs water gets fed from there. This here is a manual hydraulic pump, which controls my foil rake. So I can rake the foils up to 5 degrees forwards. Basically, the further forwards I rake them, the more aggressive the angle of attack, so they start to lift the bow up. The chart table tacks from side to side, just swings round there, and again everything I need in one small space. So most of what I'm doing is PC based, and I run my pilot overlays through here, and then also I'm constantly recording and monitoring data. So this screen is telling me what all the load cells on the boat are doing, so I can see keel angle, foil rake, backstay load, outrigger load, and I can set various different alarms to let me know if I go over the limit on any of these. And then my navigation software I run through here as well, and that's the same again. So when I'm sleeping, I'll set up this software with multiple different alarms, so it can tell me if the wind changes direction, if the wind speed changes, if I've got an AIS target within certain range, and then obviously I've got a radar up there as well, and I can set up radar targets. I normally set the radar to sweep during the night, so it's not on all the time. My battery monitor is here. There's keel controls there, so my hydraulic pump for the keel, so everything's here. And then my sleep alarm as well, which is just like a little egg timer, which put there, and I normally sleep for about 20 minutes at a time. Sleeping is just on the floor on a beanbag, and I normally kind of sleep lying under the chart table with my feet over the engine bay, because that's quite comfy. Over here, this is the ballast tank. So I've got forward ballast and aft ballast. The forward ballast we fill up through this scoop here, or one on the other side. So if we want to fill, we just turn the scoop forwards and push down, and then the water just floods in and goes up there. And emptying is the reverse. And there's 2 tons of ballast in here, and just under a ton in the back. And if I want to tack the ballast, then I've got these transfer pipes here, and I just open a gate valve there and a gate valve on the other side, and all the water slooshes across. The engine is under here, and my engine controls are these lovely bits of string. Because the cockpit is so wide, you couldn't have a regular Morse control to manage this boat. So the engine control is on these 2 bits of string, do forward and reverse, and then this is the throttle here, and you can just take that out in the cockpit and operate that from anywhere. The salubrious cooking facilities are down there. Just jet boil, and then I have a little tap I can fill up the water tank for. And that's about it down here, really. Most jobs on the boat I can do from inside the cockpit, and I've got a sliding coach roof that will pull all the way back, so when there's heaps of water over the deck, then I can actually do it in the dry, which is just incredible for me, because you know, I'm so used to having to kind of sweat it out with a dry seal on your neck and grinding on the pedestal. So being able to do that in a t-shirt, or even just, you know, a soft shell jacket, really makes a difference to your personal comfort. But I like being able to push it forwards too, because I like being able to see what I'm doing. The pedestal here drives all 4 winches, and you have to be a little bit careful with these winches, because this one loads clockwise and this one loads anti-clockwise, so the lines are always coming out through the middle, and despite the fact that we have arrows on the top, I almost always load them up the wrong way at some point. Everything is, or pretty much everything is, on constrictors. So these little boggles down here let the constrictors off and on there. The foils and the furling lines we have on conventional clutches, but the constrictors are just much easier to use on the other controls. And there's always the bonus that actually with a constrictor it's much easier to let a line off when it's under load. So obviously with one of these jammers, if a line's really under load, you struggle to open that jammer, but a constrictor you can pretty much always let go under load. Steering, so my tillers extend all the way out, and I have a carbon chair that I can put in that corner there, so I look out of the bubbles in the cockpit and I can hand steer using this, which is quite nice. It's a good thing to do because you kind of just get to feel the balance of the boat now and again, because when the pilot's driving, the pilot can drive really aggressively and really efficiently, and sometimes you just don't, if something's wrong, you might not realise that your sail trim is wrong, or you've got the wrong sail up or something like that. So just kind of taking the helm and spending a bit of time on the helm really helps you to feel the boat and sail more efficiently. And then on the transom here, you can see we've got kick-up rudders. So when I'm on one tack for a long time, I will only be using one rudder. The other one's hardly doing anything at all anyway. And so I can lift that out of the water, which means less drag, but also there's less risk of hitting stuff then. And for each of the rudders, I have 2 downlines. And the idea with that is that if I do hit something, there's a fuse in the downline, and the rudder, rather than breaking, will pop up, and then I've got a second downline to pull it back down again. So it's kind of that belt and braces approach that we always think of when we're kind of doing the long distance stuff. So we're going to have a look on the deck. Medallia has the IMOCA One Design mast, which is a rotating mast, so it moves up to about 30 degrees either way, which makes it more aerodynamic. And because it has a rotating mast, we've got the deck spreaders, which allow us to have a much wider base for our shrouds, so that the mast can rotate inside that shroud base. The deck spreaders themselves don't move, the mast just moves inside it. If we look down here, so here you can see the foil casings just there, and actually you can just see the lines holding the 2 foils in board. So the foils are retracted at the moment, and we have a 3-to-1 purchase from the cockpit that will pull the foils out, and then a single line that pulls them back in again. Those sails are down there just kind of because we're on the dock and we're storing them there. But when I'm sailing, those sails need to be in the optimum position for speed, which means that they are stacked and strapped on the back of the boat normally, and I have to move them from side to side with manoeuvres.
Wow. And they weigh how much?
When they're dry, they weigh about 80 kilos. When they're wet, it's about 100 kilos. It's really hard.
So are you thinking of a solution to make it easier on yourself?
Yeah, we're talking it through at the moment, and I think one of the modifications we might do next year when we do our refit is actually put a solid piece across the transom, maybe with rollers on it, because at the moment when I tack, I drag the sails all the way around the bow, around the front of the mast, and then down each side. It takes me half an hour to move them in total, but I think maybe just sliding them across the back is a shorter distance and maybe less effort. So that's something we're thinking about.
And how many reefs in the mainsail?
3 reefs in the mainsail. I had, interestingly, so for the last Vendée I had 4 reefs in the main, but I never used that 4th reef. I found kind of by the time it got to the stage where I would have used the 4th reef, I just took the main down and sailed on the jib, and I think that's probably the approach that I'll have this time as well. You kind of just don't need to sail up when it's that windy. And then forward of the mast here, we've got, this is the J3. So this I take up and down, but I pretty much leave it up all the time because it's working as a stay sail when I've got other sails there, but also it's providing a structural support to the mast to stop it, the midsection, from pumping when you're using some of the bigger sails at the masthead. The J2 is my primary head sail, sails. This is a structural stay. This one's up all the time. And the interesting thing about that is, you know, as a class, the way things have developed, people no longer have structural stays on the stem head. They're inside the footprint of the boat now, just because you just don't need a sail that big. It's a smaller sail, it's the one that you use more regularly, and if you're not using a sail on the stem head regularly, then it's just providing a huge amount of drag, so you don't bother. And then I've got one tack position on the end of the bowsprit, from which I fly an A2, which is a big soft spinnaker in a snuffer, or a masthead 0, or a J0 or a fractional 0. So I've got an option of 4 sails there. I think one of the things we want to work on this year is having a second tack point, so that I can have a further 2 sails up all the time, and again that will help me with energy, because if I'm just furling a sail in or furling one out, it's better than what I have to do now, which is actually physically taking sails up and down when I make those changes.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified every time we post.